We have 5 board members present and some staff. Welcome, everyone.
Hi, John.
Okay, so we're still not receiving public comments for the board meeting specific. So we will move to the consent agenda. And this time around, we have 4 items on our consent agenda. The minutes from our board meeting, June 15th. 2 income and expense reports, one for the June 30th and the other for July 31st of 2020. Year-to-date numbers. We have our study session from August the 6th, 2020 that covered financial scenarios worked up by staff for us. And we have an acceptance of the resignation of Liz Zorns that happened early July. And I have a motion to accept and approve the consent agenda.
I so move.
Bill moves. Do I have a second?
Second.
Beth seconds. Thank you. Does anyone have any edits, comments, or desire to remove anything from the consent agenda? I see no one wishing to do that. All in favor of accepting, approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? I believe that was unanimous. Okay. We'll move on to our strategic discussion and reports. And I will start for the Government Affairs Committee. First off, it's not on your agenda, but I'm going to share that Claudine received an invitation from the new Estes Chamber of Commerce to participate in their golf tournament, which took place last Friday. And Claudine asked me to put together a team, which I did. Myself, Don Bryson, Stan Osborne, and Pete Johnson participated on our team. We came in 5th with a very reasonable showing. There was a ringer team there that no one could have possibly beat, but that's okay. It was a fun time. And Claudine came out and joined us there on the golf course for a period of time also. So the chamber is trying to get itself focused more on its normal business, if you will, and they've been very distracted, if you like everyone, with regard to COVID issues and trying to help out where they can on that. So the library is a member of the chamber, and so we had a sponsorship for the library that was included on one hole, and I put in a sponsorship on behalf of the Board of Trustees of the library on another hole. So we were represented there. Okay, public comments. We have received a specific email from, sorry, let me get my material. From one of our patrons. You have that in your board materials. The concern is that the library is biased in both our collections and programs, and was requesting a response. This came to the Board of Trustees email at the library. Claudine and I discussed it. Claudine made a response, and you have that in your packet. I believe her response is adequate, rather than myself or the board specifically making an additional response. She covered our library policy with regard to these items, as well as sharing what the staff would proceed to do regarding the specific requested materials. And so that's in process with staff at this point. Program-wise, our programs are intentionally unbiased, they're neutral, and we try to be as inclusive as possible with various viewpoints. So that's the reply that's been made, and unless the board instructs otherwise, we will consider that the matter has been dealt with. Any comments or questions from the board?
I thought the letter was, how to put this politely, not strong without any real evidence. It was just an assertion. And I thought Claudine's response was spot on.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. The other item I have then is a very brief update, additional update on the CalCon that is coming up. Noted on your agenda, the trustee track will be September the 11th, Friday, pretty much all day. You will be receiving unique login information, and there will also be a help desk that you would be able to contact in order to get some help if you're having difficulties with the online meeting elements. I think I mentioned before that each different session will have its own login with about 15 minutes between in the 2 morning sessions, and again in the afternoon sessions with a break at lunchtime for keynote speaker. All of our board members have been registered. I hope all board members will make an attempt to participate, depending on your availability. The materials will be available online for about 6 months for anyone who has been registered. So they'll be out there for being able to review. They'll be videoing them and recording them and be available that way. So we won't have another board meeting before that time. So we'll be checking in with you to make sure you receive the necessary information that they're promising for trustees. And of course, Claudine and staff will be getting their information for staff sessions and so forth as well. Any comments from you, Claudine, with regard to the CalCon?
Yeah, I hope everyone's okay with the fact that we didn't ask if you'd like to go. Just signed you up, and I'm hoping it's easier to attend because you'll be hopefully at home in the comfort of your chair. And as you well know, David is one of the presenters, and he's gearing up right now. So hopefully you'll all have a chance to get a refresher of what he and Kay did with reviewing audited financial statements. So, and it'll be zippy and brilliant, right, Dave?
With the help of Kay's husband, Mark, it might be at least watchable.
Very perfect. Yeah, there you go.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions or thoughts, Bill?
I'm just wondering if you and/or Claudine, if there's any sessions that you want to point out that would be valuable for maybe even all the board members to attend, that are either particularly powerful presenters or just content that's really germane to the issues that we'll be facing in the future. That's all.
Okay.
That may not be possible, but if it is, that's great.
Yeah. When we get the specific information on the schedule and the topics and so forth, I will go through that and make some recommendations. But I'm, to the extent I'm aware of what has been selected, I think there is some very good material that should be beneficial to most of us to have an opportunity to listen and ask questions even. There will be that opportunity given in most sessions for interaction from the audience. So I too hope that you'll find the opportunity to participate.
John, you did add that the trustee track is set for Friday. So Friday is the heavy day for trustees.
Yeah.
And Bill, it would be fun for me to look through and see if there's any really great presenters or topics that I think would be outside of what you normally get that may be of value. That sounds like a fun task. Yeah, maybe John and I can touch base.
You bet.
Thanks.
Okay. Not any other questions, thoughts? You should have also actually received an email today to trustees, addressed to trustees, with several other conference things that are going to be going on this fall that Crystal has identified as possible beneficial things for trustees. I'll leave that totally to you to review and look at. If you're not getting any of that, please let Claudine know, and we'll make sure that you're adequately receiving those emails and information. If you haven't put them in your address book, excuse me, it may be going to your spam or junk folder, so double check. Okay, we'll move on to Claudine's reports, and the first one on that is the strategic plan quarterly update report.
Okay.
I'll give Claudine opportunity to highlight anything she'd like first, but we'll take it section by section. 5 different sections focus on early literacy. Claudine, anything that you want to highlight in that section?
Perhaps the biggest item to pull out for everyone is we have an unusually high volume of patron comments that we've shared throughout the entire document. I want to thank the patron services team who answer the phone and work at the front desk. And we really do ask them to gather up comments by email and in person. So you'll see a little bit more than usual. When it comes to early literacy, John, I just want to say it's important that I tend to focus, maybe with a little short-sightedness, on how many people are live viewing the programs online. But as you can see in the first one, page 1 on this is we have 680 views, right, for the 37 childhood programs. What we know is they're doing quality work. And what we also know is there may be some online fatigue for families and individuals that watching videos, however high quality, the program team is really rethinking what can we do starting in the next few months that adds value to the community under COVID, that makes sense for the library to do, and that maybe isn't so video intensive. And the last thing I'll say, John, is just today, the State Library came out. We're librarians, we love infographics, and they sent out this infographic about how the libraries in Colorado responded to COVID during the multiple phases thus far. And not surprisingly, small libraries were more nimble, small libraries were open more often. Mid-size and large libraries did a lot of digital service. And since we're a small library with we're a rural resort, right? You know, so we're small, but we have the resources of a larger library on a per capita basis. We like hit all the boxes. It was like a cool ego moment for me, which I will forward to you all later. But it just comes down to everybody, all the libraries are sort of experiencing the same. Ennui is not the right word, but where do we position ourselves under these conditions? And so it seems that by and large, being open physically seems to be surprisingly low tech, traditional, and of higher rate of satisfaction. So I know you just asked for this first section, but I feel like that covers most of it, John.
I appreciate it.
And if there's any questions I can answer, I'd be delighted to.
Yep. So board members, any questions on section 1? Focus on early literacy. Any of you ever see any of that posted via Facebook or otherwise? Beth, you are? Good. I see a few of them here and there myself. So, yeah, I think they're very good. I was particularly happy to see the number of materials for kids and teens ebooks added. They're probably more into that sort of thing than adults are oftentimes. So I think that's great that we're getting that additional coverage.
Hope so.
No other comments on section 1? Enable lifelong learning. Anyone? Any questions for Claudine or comments on this section?
I'll make a quick comment.
Yes,
John?
please.
You'll notice that under Services for New Americans, our ELL tutoring program, I don't think it's dramatic to say it's at risk. It was a very much a one-on-one or a two-on-one. It was set up to be live and interpersonal. So I'm dabbling a little bit in the future, but Gretel is working with a couple of potential partners to turn her attention from in person to ways in which we can serve immigrant families and English language learners in a slightly different way. So just letting you know, this is, I think, a very succinct and honest assessment of the number of tutors and students who are not connecting, but give us a few months and we think we're going to have something as an alternative.
Good. It's
Bill,
good to
you're
hear.
part of the program. I wasn't sure if you wanted to add anything to that.
Well, I could, but now's not the right time. I think there is a way forward that would really make a big difference. But I'm talking to Gretel about it. So
Very good. Thank you.
Good. Okay. I think the main thing in this
I have a-
section.
I have a
Go ahead, Bill.
No, I just have some comments. I mean, I've got to tell you, I was overall kind of staggered by all the good work that's being done and all the initiatives and stuff. But in this section, the work with the mental health online and the free legal clinic and the house call work to just make sure our customers are, kind of a well-being check. I mean, I just thought that was terrific. I think that we're famous in Salt Lake City is really good. And it's all those positive responses to the curbside service. I guess that surprises me. I don't know why exactly, but obviously people really appreciate it. That's all.
Thanks, Bill. I'll be sure to bring your comments back to the staff.
Okay. Anyone else? Any comments, questions on that section? We'll move on to provide community connections. I think this has been a struggle. It's hard to make connections very well if you're not meeting with people or having in-person events. And this is an area Claudine will share a little bit more with us in her administrative report, I think, as far
I
as
agree.
future planning. So, but any questions on how things are have transpired there? I would like to compliment that you're working on providing Zoom meetings for other groups, especially I think some book clubs and others. I'm glad to see that. I think getting the word out on that is still difficult, to say the least. Knowledge that can be done. So I hope board members, when you come in contact with folks, you pass the word along. The library does have several not versions, but several licenses on Zoom meetings and can help groups in the community provide that. If you don't do many of those yourself, they've gotten more and more, excuse me, more and more strict with regard to limiting non-paid for licenses to 40 minutes. And for many, that's not a long enough time period. And so the library having those licenses can help if they need an hour, hour and a half or more to have their meeting. Okay. Anyone else? If not, well, I'm gonna have to get a drink here in a moment. Deliver materials on a personalized basis. Any comments, questions on that section? Lots and lots of patron comments there.
Hey, John, I can walk through the last bit of this while you clear your throat.
Go ahead.
So Bill, thanks for your comments about curbside. I mean, we speculate all the time here, and please remember this is through June, right? So the energy around a lot of it is thank you for being safe, because so much has happened, right? Even since June. And then thank you for opening up in this limited library specific way. So I am pleased, you know, it's sort of like the boat going through the water, and we're looking at the wake a little bit here. But I'm so grateful for people taking the time to say how valuable it was for them. Certainly our power users, which is what I refer to them. We're so grateful to have this. And then when we open the building, I feel very much that many of the curbside folks just stopped doing curbside because they could physically enter. So the work ahead for the library staff is great. You know, our power users are going to figure out the systems. They're going to get here. They're going to get the materials. They're going to get their needs met. It's everybody else that we're trying to turn our attention to for the immediate future with COVID. Are there any questions I can answer about Peggy's report?
Anyone? I noticed that we had twice as many items checked in as checked out during the quarter. Do you have any idea where we stand on the return of things that we said they didn't need to return until August 1st?
No, but that'll be something easy to prepare for. Is what's the status? Again, we're fine free, which is it'll be an interesting test to see what that does. But it's also true that I know I have overdue materials, and I'm getting some pretty softball emails that say, "Hey." You know, whereas in the past we a little bit more firm in the past. So I think it'll be a good test, John. We'll see what happens.
Okay, good. I would like to add a personal comment. My wife has told several people of the places she goes where she feels the safest to go to is the library. Mm-hmm. So I think the staff has done an excellent job with handling entries and so forth there and making people feel comfortable. So thank you.
I'm glad to hear that. Thanks, John.
Anyone else? Any comments, questions?
Have you had many negative comments from customers? Claudine, who said, why don't you open, 10 to 10 and on the weekend?
The short answer, Bill, is no.
Good.
We've had some, and they've been incredibly professional in their more of an inquiry. When might we expect hours, and when can we expect seating again for people who want to stay longer? When can I get to the material on the second floor? So we've made some exceptions happily to bring stuff from the second floor down to the first floor, even if it's one patron or two patrons. And even the mask, Bill, even the welcome desk person, there are certainly people who are convinced that this is a waste of their time. And knock on wood, so far people understand that may be true. We understand your position. And in order to come in the library, you need to wear a mask. So, so far so good. How's that?
No altercations or any unpleasantness. So that's great.
Mild. It's like any place else, I think 95% are awesome. They really are.
Okay.
So interesting. I was looking at the digital items checked out and the increase, and I'm just wondering, how this is going to shift the way that folks know how to access some of the digital things. Like it seems like it's just really pushed us into learning some of the platforms and different things. So it's kind of cool, even just thinking about, when we did our board meetings and someone couldn't come, we didn't even think about putting them on Zoom. Just, there's just new creative stuff that's going to happen. But man, 43% increase is a lot.
This is an appropriate time to say we wouldn't have been able to do that without the Friends and Foundation support.
Mm-hmm.
It was a potentially dry fundraising request, and boy, did it prepare us for this present moment. Thanks, Annie.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent. Okay. If there are no other comments or questions, we'll move to the last. Is it the last section?
It is.
Grow internally to succeed externally. Any comments, questions on this section? Some important stuff in there.
I only have one comment. September 24, 2020.
It's like it's tomorrow, but in COVID time, we've got years.
Explain yourself.
Thank you.
Bill, I like speaking cryptically with you. That was fun.
That's when the ILS goes live. I've been waiting for it.
Oh.
I can't wait to use it, especially for the online materials and things. So
Well, my
I just
compliments,
think
my compliments to the staff and Jamie for leading it and how this is progressing so well. So we'll look forward to that new system.
I just want to say one of the values we hope to express next year is the taxpayers will have invested in this new integrated library system, and most libraries don't move their infrastructure but once every 20 years, which is close to what we did, right? We were on a system for 10 years, which was bought by another system, which we stayed with for 20 years. So we were, it was 30 years. It was a really long client relationship. So we moved to this catalog, and we asked that, I think when it starts, I just want you to know, it's just going to be a new interface. You're going to say, it looks different. Oh, that's okay. I can stop. Can you hear me okay?
Okay.
What I wanted to do is set expectations, John. And I wanted to say, it's going to just look different for a few months. But starting in January and February, we'll be able to flip switches. We'll be able to add some of the features that made us migrate to this system to begin with. So we
now
think
you're back on. Okay.
Actually, John, I think you were the one who was off. Okay. John, all I know from past experience is if you turn off your video, it might help. And I'll turn mine off too. Well, I'll just end by saying to the board, as I set expectations for you, please know you'll start seeing a little bit more glimmer in this migration starting in the spring, but please know we're excited to see the school district and Eagle Rock School as part of our system. That's going to be one of the significant long-term gains. So thanks. John, can you hear us? Nope.
Okay, I guess it was me. I lost connection. Can you hear me now?
We can.
Yeah.
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
John, can you hear us?
Am I on?
Yes. Hold on. Let me see if I can send you a note here. Chat is, hey, Joe, my chat's disabled.
Okay. I'm not sure if I can do anything about that mid-meeting.
Okay, that's okay.
And anyone
I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this old school. I'm going to send him a text.
My connection
That's pretty good.
is unstable, it says. I'm going, a moment ago.
Oh, good. I'm going to ask him to turn off his video.
Okay, am I back?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Can you hear us, John?
Yes, I can hear everyone now.
Okay.
It
great.
keeps telling me my internet connection is unstable, unfortunately. Hopefully I'll be able to stay on. I'll leave the video off. Maybe that will help. Okay.
Okay. Thanks, John.
All right. We were on section 5. Anyone have any other comments, questions for Claudine?
Well, we've got exciting things like Cindy's finance report, which we can get to later.
Yeah, it'll be in the administrative report as well.
Okay.
Okay. I don't see anyone trying to get my attention or speak. We also have the quarterly dashboard that's part of this report. Not surprisingly, lots of red. There are some green places though, which is good to see, and means that significant efforts are being made. I would note the books provided to the 6 book clubs and the social media engagement elements. A bit surprised that the Lucky Day is up so much. Is that because it just started last year, you think?
I do. I think it's because it started last year and because Cindy Standifer, other Cindy, we call her Cindy Baker. Cindy Standifer does a great job laying it out, but also, I mean, if you think about it, you can hop in the library, kind of clear the shelf and walk out pretty quick with Lucky Day.
True. Okay. Any last minute or final comments with regard to that quarterly report? Anyone? No questions? Okay. Very good. We're moving along fine. We will move to the monthly administrative report. And what highlights did you want to bring to us, Claudine?
I think I want to thank Cindy for her great narrative summary. I'm trying to think if there's anything that isn't self-explanatory on here. I'm going to look at, oh, well, I think we can talk about for sure the director's report, upcoming and reopening. I thought you might have some questions and I can elaborate a bit more. And then our future plans, which I touched on. And I'd love to answer any questions you might have before we go on to Joanna's report, which I think is going to be a significant part of 2021 for us. But is there anything about our reopening or future plans that I can discuss?
Let's do the budget elements first.
Sure. Sorry.
There's an update with regard to the RFP. David or Cindy, Kay, anyone want to share the update there for everyone? The auditor RFP.
Well, John, it's been being worked on by Cindy. She might be able to elaborate more, but took into consideration your 2 comments from last week. But currently, it's asking for both the annual auditor, but also a audit of procedures too, to find someone that can do both at the same time. There's a question whether we'll find that or not. And Cindy, are you working on the language still on that, I believe?
I am. I'm working on updating and separating out those 2, like was suggested, maybe giving them the option of just doing the annual audit and not taking on our extra request. However, there's been emails today from the Colorado Library Finance. I guess I just put my video on while I'm speaking, I'm sorry. Colorado Library Finance Officers Association, and even more options for firms to send our RFP to are coming through. So our list is growing. That's good news. And that, along with budget information, will be going out later this week when we have all the comments in for the RFP.
Well, it's good to hear, Cindy, that there's some more options, because that was our concern in the finance committee meeting, that we wanted to get it out as soon as possible in case we had too few responses or not appropriate responses that we might have to do a second round. And with John also provided a contact and received some new, that's good news, and hopefully we'll get the appropriate responses. But the idea is to get it out as soon as possible so we can get this buttoned down and move on from there.
Correct.
Thank you. Appreciate that update. So let's move on to Claudine.
John, before we move
Oh,
on, I just
yes,
have a
Kate.
quick question for Cindy. Is our relationship with the city done now?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes, completely. I'm sure they would still be available if we had questions. They did respond during the audit to questions that I needed help on. But other than that, yes, it has ended as of
Okay.
the end of March, like we planned. So
Okay.
that's,
Thank you.
Okay, very good. Anyone else? Okay. Future plans, Claudine, you want to move there?
Sure.
Okay.
So on Tuesday, and kind of getting ahead on the agenda, but based on the MOU between the library and the foundation, ordinarily I'm supposed to be delivering to the foundation at their August meeting with some precision what it is we are hoping to accomplish next year so that they can think about it for fundraising purposes. Can they meet it? I will have some rough ideas based on the staff's conversation with the tactical team, which is the supervisors and the admin team. But I hope this says most of it. We're really going to be looking at a fresher approach to what services we can. When I say fresh, I don't mean all new and shiny. I mean what's actually yielding results qualitatively and quantitatively in terms of what the public is telling us is of value to them. So some of our values right now are really based on early literacy, which you've heard me talk about on and off through the year. And we've always had a terrific early literacy program, but now that we're paying attention to the incoming kindergarten readiness, we're seeing that as awesome as our program is, there's probably a lot of issues around equity around it, because we're really awesome for about a quarter of the kids going into kindergarten. So what are the strategies we're going to take? I mean, this was the discussion starting at the beginning of this year to reach the kids who are not easier to reach. Now with COVID on top of it, we're going to need to get very creative. And so just letting you know that that remains a very high priority, and perhaps especially so now with kids being schooled in these hybrid models. And the second one is, which is, I don't know who gets credit for this, it wasn't me. Oh, it was Allison Cavas said, it's really time to refresh old school services and to look at ways in which we offer things that are not digital, because it is true. We keep thinking, well, how do we push that remotely? How do we get that online? How do we, and that's all well and good, but we've done that now for 4 months. And I would say the results are okay. But I think we can do better, and the staff is at full tilt. But we're really looking at this as a marathon and not a sprint. So we're trying to find new systems to deliver services. So traditional materials, opening the library more hours, maintaining our level of sanitation. Those are the basics. Partnerships have proven to be a little bit more complicated right now. People are really trying to figure out their own duties and their own stories. So I just want to say no one is discouraged. We're more realizing that in 2021, we would ordinarily start a new 3 to 5 year strategic plan. And something I've talked to a couple of you offline is, I'm not sure we can deliver a real strategic plan of that length under these conditions. But I think we can continue to look at this quarterly, right? What can we do on a quarterly basis where we are pivoting in ways that are not reactive, because we've done a little bit of that over the last few months, but that are more responsive. So I realize, John, I'm sorry that I don't have concrete. Annie, for fundraising purposes for the MOU, I'm sorry, I don't have concrete. We will, though. We will in short order. And so I hate sounding circuitous. I think that's exactly what I just did. So if there's any questions I can answer around that, shoot them my way right now, please.
Anyone? Okay. When
Is it hard
your-
to get out of the circles? I just,
That's all right. Annie, when is your next board meeting?
It's Monday, the 22nd, Monday
Of August.
of August. Yep.
Okay.
And that sounds great, Claudine. I don't know if we're kind of in the same plane. I mean, we just don't know. So that's.
Yeah. So that date is actually the 24th. Monday is the 24th, but that's fine. So yeah. Claudine, let me know if there's anything I can do to assist you as you prepare for that.
psychic skills would be most welcome at this time, Mr. President.
Yeah.
But I thank you very much. I promise to let you know.
Okay. So the future plans as far as the opening, further reopening, if you will, expanded reopening, whatever you want to call it. You want to briefly?
Yes. So we, we're really operating on a very ordinary level for public libraries. I mean, I'm a little chagrined and maybe embarrassed. Most libraries are operating at about 20 hours per week. And you can look, I'm sure there's an exception out there. We really would like to get to 40, and we can, but the issue right now is the staffing, and that we're down the unusual number that we are. And that, as you well know from your own operations in your work or home life, it takes quite a bit more to do things than it did in the past, more time and more effort to do it well and to do it in a sanitary manner. So we are shooting, as I said, for after Labor Day. We were hoping immediately after Labor Day to open, kind of adjust our hours that as we do each summer to fall, from and open at 10, and it would be 10 to 6. What we know is the same wonderful regulars are going to come because many of them are retired or have flexible schedules, so they can come whenever we're open. But we're hoping to be available to those for whom it's not easy to get here. And what we have heard repeatedly from the public, John, and the board is there is some comfort. There's literal comfort in having the public library, just be able to go downtown and have a place you're not spending money and that has been well cared for under COVID conditions. So that's a long way of saying we need a little time to rebuild our staff because, I mean, I can't remember if Peggy's report said this. We've really been operating really thanks in large part to the people who are technically our substitute staff. So if somebody's on vacation or sick, one of those folks would come in and cover, but they have been working 10, 15, 20 hours regularly. So they're covering, but many of those hours are, not many, some of those hours are at home answering phone and email from the comfort of their homes. So these are folks who signed on for almost no hours. And they've been we've been dependent on them since March. So once we have probably hired 1 or 2 folks that we can rely on, we will be Monday through Friday, 10 to 6. And after that, we would like to then survey the community and say, hey, we're now open 10 to 6. What do you need? Like, what haven't we delivered? And on this, John, without going too far, I hope, some libraries are doing, in order to reach evening people, they're open Mondays from 9 to 1 and Tuesdays from 2 to 6 and Wednesdays from 11 to 3. And that might work for our community. I can only speak for myself and say, I don't want to work that hard to figure out when I'm getting to the library. And the feedback we have received is consistency would be much appreciated. So I'm sorry I really am, that we can't open immediately with more hours. I need to make sure we have staff who are medically able and professionally committed to that kind of work.
Of course, and I think the board supports you in that regard.
Yeah.
Fully. So we will stay tuned to see how things can progress. Any,
Claudine, I have a couple of questions. Will it just be first floor only?
Yes.
Okay, and will you still do the curbside pickup?
Yes, the good news about the curbside is if you haven't used it in the last few months, Allison created a pretty sweet software program so that you can book it. It was too far between. Now it's within 5-minute increments. And Kay, the last bit is we're obligated to. We would do it anyway, but the county health orders actually have written in that the reason there's a variance for libraries is that variance is dependent on the continued option of curbside. I know. Can you imagine that the health department had to think to that level? But they are.
okay.
Was there
Very
another
good.
question, Kay? Okay, thanks.
Okay. And now you kind of hit on the equity, diversity, inclusion already. Johanna and the team, HR team has been working on that.
Just getting started.
Yeah, but outline some different phases to progress potentially. Anyone have any specific questions around that? Okay,
I have a question.
Yeah,
I just was looking at it and really thinking what a challenge it is to look organizationally for equity, diversity, and inclusion. So I was curious, and part of it is that there's a conversation with the board in here, and so I wonder what that might look like, and specifically, let me see. Just this sentence here, this is foundational to our library, and yet we recognize some of our structures and ways of operation may not lend themselves to the outcomes of inclusivity in practice. And I'm just curious what you're finding out and what you're seeing from your. It looks like you went to a session about libraries specifically. So I just love to hear a little bit more. I'm
going to ask Cindy and Joanna to either correct me or add to anything I will say. So Beth, yeah, it's sort of on fire in library land right now. And the symposium at Denver Public Library was one of many we could have done, but the reason we did it was I can't remember if it was free, but boy, it was remote, it was easy to get to, it was easy to engage with. American Library Association Public Libraries is also doing it. So it came down, I'd like to, so it was interesting, and it was 3 full days, so each of us took a day, and then we shared our notes. The examples I would use for us are the 2 obvious ones, which isn't it interesting that a third of at least our school age, our young families are Hispanic or English as a second language, and yet we have not been successful in hiring because it's an old-fashioned objective, which is you hire people that reflect the community so that it represents the whole community. Mm-hmm. And I had to eat some humble pie when I realized after attending this symposium, Beth, that certainly I have loved the practice of, we have full-time people with master's degrees or library science, and then we have folks we hire from the community, full-time benefited, and then we have these part-time folks, and these part-time folks are largely retirees or stay-home moms who are looking to get out of the house for a little bit. Mm-hmm. So none of that appeals to a person of color who maybe, didn't go to graduate school, is a member of the community. They're looking for a benefited job. They're not, part-time. The whole system is designed, and I've been in libraries for 25 years, and I've never once questioned the brilliant practice of getting these overeducated homemakers that you pay $12 an hour, right? Mm-hmm. That's how you operate your library. Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. That's great for white women.
Mhm.
So that's number one. And the second is, my goodness, we've tried every which way to, within our current practices, to offer something through our early literacy program. We have such quality early literacy program. Melanie knows this, Karen we've brought in, she's a former kindergarten teacher. We do an awesome job, but it's really fine-tuned to English-speaking parents whose moms can stay home and bring their kid to story time Thursday, Friday, So there's no harm. It's not an intentional negligence, but going through this process revealed to me, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've taken all of this for granted. And so what can we do in our hiring practices, and what can we do in our early literacy programming to truly reach, in a more equitable fashion, folks who are not traditional library users?
Mhm.
So you can call any of that into question, or
Okay, I think it's wonderful that paying attention to it. Bill, you have a comment?
I agree with John. I think it's wonderful too. I'm just wondering about the joint effort that we're doing with RJ in terms of reaching out to the community and developing better understanding. I know from my work in RJ that there's a lot of racism against Hispanic people in the community. A lot. I hear that from young kids, not so much. Well, I'm from adults too, from both, and it's really ugly. And anyway, I'm sure you guys will consider, using that joint RJ effort to. Maybe that can be one of the early themes that work involves, because I think the reality is that a lot of white people in the community don't understand what life is like for Hispanic adults or children, and it's just to develop an understanding of that. I think we could really move our community ahead a long way. That's all.
Thank you. Okay, anything else?
I'm just excited for it. I think that it's really important work to do, and I think it is the way forward to understand how we better serve the folks that we haven't been able to serve. And I don't think it's about lack of effort or quality programming or anything like that. I think that there's some real important ways that we need to see how we show up in the community. So I'm excited for that.
Thanks, Beth.
Thanks for that comment. Okay, I think it'd be good if we can move on to the Finance Committee items. David and Kay, I'll leave that to you. There's two things that we have on the agenda there, covering the process and timeline for budget planning for next year, and then the follow-up that we discussed at study session, directions to the library director. Who's going to start?
Well, John, I'll start. And thank you to Cindy for providing a comprehensive timeline for me to use. I'll just run through that real quick. Tomorrow, August 18th, all the budget requests to the spreadsheets are going to all the supervisors. Really, there's only been one major change to the schedule. And again, Cindy has done the research with DOLA, with their schedules and stuff to make sure this is all we're dealing with. Normally on August 25th would be the assessor's deadline for providing the preliminary assessed evaluation. That's been extended to October 13th, which adds a lot of complication to Claudine and Cindy's timeline for the budget, but that is what they have decided to do. September 15th, the budget request spreadsheets are due back. October 15th is when a draft budget must be submitted to the Board of Trustees. Sometime between before November 1st, a notice of budget must be published to say that it's available and must be submitted to us by the October's board meeting. November study session on the 5th is the first of two public hearings. The November board meeting on the 16th of November is a second public budget hearing. December 10th is the assessor's deadline for providing the final assessed valuation. And on December 14th, the board must have final approval of the budget and prepare for certification of the mill levy. All just logistics. Again, the major thing changes the change of the assessor's deadline for providing the preliminary assessed valuation. I did ask the question if Cindy or Claudine were going to do much of changes to the scenarios they provided us to us at the study session, the 3 different scenarios of the best, most likely, and worst case scenarios. And Cindy pointed out that, you know, the only thing that's going to go on is they're still going to be looking at the planned compensation study. The tactical team is going to be looking ahead for the next year to see what staffing requirements are going to be necessary, and an in-depth look at the facilities maintenance projects. So those are the things that could affect those scenarios. And from what I understand, John, then it's our job tonight to maybe provide them some direction on what we want to see in the budget between looking at those scenarios that we did at the study session.
Correct. I think it's only fair of the board to ask for 1 draft budget and not 3. We only approve 1 ultimately. And so which case, or some completely different case even, that we looked at before, does the finance committee recommend to the board that we proceed with for a draft budget in October?
Well, John, we did not go over and vote on a formal recommendation, and I think we could give our opinions tonight. I think they did a fine job with the scenarios, and I look towards the most likely middle ground one as the one that we should work with, in my opinion. And I'll let Kay also speak here in a moment, but
the one that the highest probability.
Okay. Which involved looking at some minor cuts in income, but still looking at I believe it was a 2% raise in salaries, things of that nature, rather than the more drastic cuts of the worst case scenario. I think that's a good working place to start.
Okay, 2% increase across the board in operating expense, right? Not just salaries.
Was it all the way across? I believe that was right, John. Yes.
Is that right, Cindy?
A couple of questions. When is the review for the compensation, or when are we going to talk about the compensation review?
Okay, that'll be in October.
Before or after the budget's due?
Well,
It would have been
the final budget.
It would have been when we wanted to have it to the board, Kay, before the official budget was due. I mean, that's why we originally said October. We'd still like to stick to October in the hopes that we can make it before the budget season, serious planning begins. So October 15th. Would you like it? I mean, it's one of those points where I'd need to talk to Cindy offline to change that date if we could deliver it sooner.
It's just, it could be significant in our budget.
I agree.
And to not talk about it before we start building our budget, to me, it kind of the carts before the horse. But the other thing is, I know we talked about insurance, and I think we made an estimate that it's going up. When do we get the numbers from the city?
We've sometimes there's not a specific time. We have sometimes received it in late October to early November. Cindy, you can chime in, but we've had it as late November. It's just when they're able to negotiate.
Okay.
Cindy, do you want to correct that?
No, just open enrollment is not till November. So it definitely could be November.
But we should know before if there's percentage increases at different levels.
Before open enrollment, we should know, but how much before, yeah. I'd have to look back at the exact date we received it last year. I don't recall, I apologize, but it's all gonna be pretty close, I think, to open enrollment.
So
Because that could impact our budget.
sure. So let me remind you, what we are asking for in October is a draft. And it'll be based on the best information that the library has. If something comes about either from that study and or other information like insurance going up or enrollments changing significantly, that would be represented by subsequent versions of the budget. What we need to have, of course, is a final by December 14th.
Mhm.
So we'll probably have a few iterations, but what's the basis? What I'm hearing from Kay and David is the basis that the staff should start with is the most likely case that we discussed before. Start there. If we have changes as we progress, we'll just have to deal with those as we go. Is that correct?
That's correct, John. And why I feel it's the best way is because we know what the valuations are going to change for the 2021, so we can be not certain, but at least within the ballpark of what our tax revenue is going to be. And that's why I think the most likely case is the best one to go. The subsequent years, that's up in the air what's going to happen from there.
Sure, understood. And we'll deal with that after the 13th month next year.
Exactly.
Okay. Any other comments from any other trustees with regard to which way to direct preparation of the budget? Bill or Beth? No?
Frankly, I've been sort of befuddled by which of those three to pursue, but what Kay and David has makes good sense. So I'm a happy camper with it.
Okay. And the final thing with regard to the budget is we have postponed, asked the library director to postpone any of the capital items for this year. Any direction and thoughts about including any capital other than maintenance items for next year?
I would wait to get a recommendation from Claudine and Cindy on what they might think would be possible after they prepare the preliminary budget.
Okay. Is that good for you, Claudine?
Yes.
Direction one.
Thank you, John.
Okay. Very good. Thank you both for looking into that further and your recommendation. So we'll move forward with that plan, and we'll, as I said, we'll have some iterations to deal with as we progress through the fall and into December. Anything else from the Finance Committee? No? Okay.
No, I think that covers it.
Very good. Annie, we're finally to you.
Okay. I don't know if everyone got the report that was sent out a
It's
little.
on our board share. So go ahead and share it if you would.
Oh, okay, great. So just a couple of things. The Special Events Committee is fundraising on Facebook. We thought we'd try it. We invite the trustees to look at the videos and consider a donation on this fundraising event. So it's, facebook.com/cliffhanger used books. And we've had two events so far that you can watch. And they're sort of geared towards early literacy. And we are going to do hopefully 2 more. It has not been particularly successful. We haven't had many people hit the donate button. So we're going to keep trying 1 or 2 more times and see what we get from it. The volunteer committee is also looking for cliffhanger cashiers. If the library trustees want to commit to a 2-hour shift per week, we'd love it. It's pretty helpful for our fundraising efforts and through the bookstore. And Cliffhanger and the second floor apartments have been really dependable and sort of our primary source of revenue during COVID. So we'd love to have a volunteer from the trustees. The year-to-date book sales revenue is up 20% compared to last year from January 1st to June, which is really, till July, which is really good news.
Mhm.
And then the nominating committee is still recruiting a vice president and treasurer for 2021. Please let us know if you have any recommendations for library lovers who have the interest and skill set to become part of our fundraising board. See, one more thing, the auditing firm provided our 990 on August 11th. We asked for edits on August 13th and no response to our request to date. So we're waiting to hear. We need to report this to our board on Monday. We're hoping with more nudges that we'll have the edits done to the 990. If not, Sarah will just report the edits and hope they somehow get recorded at some point. So that's pretty much it. Thank you.
Okay.
Any questions?
Thank you. Anyone have any questions for Annie? I'd like to share with the entire board that my actions at our study session on some of this topic was inappropriate, and I've had a sit-down discussion with Annie, and I think we're more on the same page. And I appreciate her forgiveness for my words and actions. We are going to make every attempt to have more written communications from our board meetings as well as theirs in the future, and I think that will help our communications. And I'd like to express here that my personal appreciation for the Friends and Foundation's ongoing support of the library, and especially Annie taking on the responsibility she has.
Thank you, John.
Anyone? Anything further there?
I have a quick question
encourage-
for Annie.
Yes.
So I don't know a lot about the 990 form other than, was the auditor's only task to deliver it to you, or did it need to be filed with the state? Do you know what the protocol is around that?
We file it with the state.
Okay.
So, and that's that has been done, but
Okay.
there were some edits that
I understand now. Thank you.
So, yeah.
Nothing that Cindy or anyone with the library needs to do to assist you in that regard, contacting the auditor?
No, I mean, we just keep sending emails and hope that they will respond. So,
Okay,
thank you.
bet, thank you. Okay, we have one action item on our agenda. If I can find it. Moved it. There it is. Okay. So it's time. We mentioned previously at the previous board meeting that we'll be having some openings, terms coming to an end at the end of this year, 3. Well, 2 at the end of this year, and then we have the current unfilled position that Liz Zorns vacated when she resigned and had to move away from Estes Park. That is a 2-year term. David Hempel's first term is coming to an end this year. He has expressed desire to have a second term. And Ann Coleman, her second term is coming up and will need to leave the board. So effectively, my job is to appoint a nominating committee, and I'd like to do that now and would appreciate a second to my motion to have Bill Garrett and Kay Weston as that committee. Do I have a second?
I will second that, John.
Thank you, David. Any comments or questions? I will say that both Claudine and I have had some various discussions with different individuals. So we're aware that there is perhaps some significant interest. We'll see who actually completes an application. Also, I tried to contact someone in the Hispanic business community. The reply I received was that they feel it's pretty much a waste of their time in the past and wouldn't have much interest because they're not listened to. So that was the kind of reply I got from that individual. We were trying to look at other possible diversity opportunities for our board. Bill may have some contacts there as well, having worked with volunteer work in that area. So we'll see where we come with regard to that. But Claudine, yes.
Similar to what we've done in the past, which is also looking at a skill set. I wonder if John, I may have cut you off prematurely.
No.
Okay. So Kay and Bill, I'll send out this lovely white paper that a previous board member, Ray Nieder, put together on the nominating process. It's just a way to see, from, what is it, soup to nuts, how it works. I'll put something in the paper as soon as you both are in agreement on what it is we're recruiting for. It can be a generic, we have board openings. It can be, we need leadership skills, we need finance skills, we need HR skills, and then we're looking for a greater representation of our community. So those are both valid, but I would love to maybe take it offline with both of you, or right now, John, to decide what is it we're recruiting for. And then I'll put that in the paper and on our website. I'll post it in response.
Right. And of course, our time frame is to have recommended nominations for our September board meeting. So that's just a month away. So it's a fairly short time window to try to do this. And especially if in-person interviews and discussions aren't going to be possible. Leave that to the committee and Claudine to the extent that you could do some of those social distancing wise and in the library or elsewhere. Yeah, Bill?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I guess I'm maybe overly focused on the idea of having a more diverse board and having to do some real recruitment efforts in the Hispanic community, for example. And also, I know what my schedule is for the weeks between now and the September board meeting. Is there any chance of delaying the recommended list of candidates until the October meeting?
So the way it works, Bill, is really technically in a very brief review, the board has the privilege of making recommendations to the appointing bodies, the town and the county. And in order to make sure that those appointments are sent through, by law, by statute, they have 90 days to respond. If they don't respond, by default, the folks you have recommended become trustees. So what all that would happen is we would be without a full complement of board members. It's not a small thing. If we delay it, that's perfectly within your rights, but it might mean that if for some reason, and I don't think this would happen, it's happened once since I've been here, where one of the appointing bodies did not respond within 90 days. So that person by default became a board member. So you see what I'm saying is it's really being a good neighbor with the county and the town. So yes, you can delay it. That's the consequence. It might take longer for that person to get on the board. But our experience to date is the town and the county are pretty quick in accepting those appointments. So you could delay.
Okay, what do you think?
Okay, Kay, you have something to share? No, you're muted.
Yeah. I do think it's important that we explore the opportunity that we have to maybe make our board more diverse. And if it takes a little extra time, I think we should take it. But I also think we have to maybe have some leads or some discussion that makes us believe it will happen too, just to.
Right. And that's
And-
why I made contact to see if that individual or if that in themselves or they could make any recommendations, thoughts. And the response I got was pretty negative
Yeah,
at this stage. I think for me, I think it's something for us to try to pursue for the future. Maybe we're a little late right now to do it for this year, this time. Every year we have at least one board member position that comes available or two. So that I'd hate to see us postpone it too much. If you come back to us and say, oh, we have somebody that's really close, we could decide in September to postpone for one of the positions, I suppose. But I would like to at least have two of those positions recommended by the September meeting. That one being most likely David, and then one other. Is that acceptable to the two of you?
Of course, for me.
Okay,
Can I say one thing?
yes,
I'm thinking about, excuse me, the person that you reached out to, John. So thank you for doing that. I just want to be careful that that one person doesn't speak for everyone in that community because that everybody has a different experience. So I just want to be careful that there's not a big assumption made that folks don't want to join the board. And then also, I agree with you that we might need a little bit more time because what does it mean? Like, why are we looking for a more diverse board? I think it's the right thing to do, but what does that mean for us? Instead of just, plopping somebody in a way that's disrespectful. So I just want to think on that. And if there's a great candidate, awesome. And I'm in full support. I just think it's important to really be in the conversation. I mean, we just opened it tonight, really, at the board level. And it's worth time. And it's worth doing it right. Because if that, and I don't think that one person speaks for an entire community, but if that is the perception that it's a waste of time, we should probably think on that and be smart about, are they right? Would it be a waste of time? I don't think it would be, but I just want us to be intentional and do it with respect. That's all.
thank you, Beth. Appreciate very much those comments.
I'm just wondering, we're doing some brainstorming here. Are there any other underrepresented communities that we don't have on the board besides the Hispanic one? Just a question. I don't know.
It's a good question.
I think in our community, that's probably the largest group. I mean, I know there's others, but I don't think they come close to having the numbers that the Hispanic community does.
I would
So
say,
Claudine, when David and I did it last time, we made some recommended changes in those sort of protocols for the, do you know if those are actually added to the protocol or not?
you're muted.
I don't know. I'm going to make sure that they are before I send out the process.
Okay,
Give
thank you
me
very
a
much,
couple of
Claudine.
minutes. I remember the recommendations and I would love to say yes, but let me make it
That's okay.
come true.
And can you send the list of possible candidates you already have identified with their applications to K&I?
Nobody's filled out
ASAP?
an application yet. They are waiting for the posting.
Okay.
Yeah.
So can I suggest that we get the posting out, since we're aiming for that September board meeting yesterday, and make it as generic as possible given the circumstances.
Yeah, I think a generic posting would probably be most appropriate at this point in time.
We can always work on the skill sets later after we interview people.
It'll be in this Friday's paper. We'll
Yay.
use one of the old, we'll refresh one of the old postings and keep it general. And we might want to do a follow-up though. I have experienced in the past, Bill and Kay, that if we say we are looking for X, my observation is people do respond to that. Not a lot of people, but we don't need a lot.
And if you have anyone, any of the board members have anyone in mind, please contact them and let them know that the application posting's out there already as of tomorrow. I think the only other underrepresented part of the community would be an age issue for us. We don't really have young adults represented. Beth is kind of borderline, I guess, now, aren't you, Beth?
Borderline a lot of things. Yes.
You're
take
younger
offense.
than the rest of us.
John,
and I'm
John.
not sure you consider yourself a young adult anymore.
No, not a young adult. 44.
Yeah, but she looks like a young adult.
I know.
Yes, she does. I know.
Hmm.
But she's corrected me, I think, on that before. Okay. All right. If there's, let's move ahead with, we have a motion for the appointment of trustee nominating committee, Bill Garrett and Kay Weston. There's no further discussion on that part of it. Any input that you have around this, please relay to Claudine or Kay or Bill in a timely manner. All those in favor of appointing this nominating committee, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Anyone have any other business they want to bring before the board? Okay, I see no one with anything. Upcoming trustee meetings. There's no study session scheduled for September at this point. Our next regular board meeting will be Monday, September 21st via Zoom. Other events, the Friends and Foundation board meeting that was mentioned, August 24th through the 4th. Bill and Claudine will be attending. The library will be closed for Labor Day, September 7th. And the CalCon conference via Zoom starts on Thursday the 10th, ends at noon on Saturday the 12th. The trustee track is emphasized on Friday the 11th. Thank you all for your participation, attention. Sorry for my technical difficulties earlier. Please, everyone, stay healthy and well. And I will